There is so much conflicting information on the internet about the future of the housing market that sometimes even I am sitting there thinking to myself, are we headed towards a crash? So today we are going to be debunking, fact-checking, if you will, some of these housing market headlines so that you can make sense of the data a little bit easier. Let's get right into it. The first thing we need to talk about is all of these articles and videos saying massive housing crash ahead, or that we are pointed towards a housing market crash. You see this a lot. And the media knows what they're doing. They're using fear-mongering tactics to get you to click on their content. They are using our recent biases as humans to fuel us with negative headlines to pump their views, their reads, their subscriptions, and it's hard to decipher. If you want to understand my analysis of what the real estate market is doing and where we are headed, click up here. I just made my last video on that topic, so it's still very, very fresh. The first thing that we need to understand is the concept of recency bias. This is a psychological phenomenon in which we as humans have a tendency to give more importance to recent events rather than the bigger picture of what's happening. A prime example of this is that since we saw a housing crash in 2008, we have a tendency to think that that could easily happen again because most people who are of home buying age were alive and understood the implications that 2008 had on their families. I have a big news flash for you. This could be my headline, if you will. The housing market has only experienced one crash in 70 years. The housing market is extremely resilient. Of course, is this me saying that it could never happen or that it's not happening? No, absolutely not. But the data is not pointing us to a housing market crash. The media and content creators out there often just want you to think that that's where we are headed. We all can remember the housing crash that affected 2008, 2009, and years on. That's why we have this recency bias in our heads. Because we experienced a crash in the not so distant past that was very brutal, we can remember the implications of that. And we also think that despite history and the data telling us that it likely won't happen, that it could happen again soon. I personally love this next headline. Rising mortgage rates are causing more home sellers to lower their asking prices. Now, I'm not reading through these full articles. I'm purely talking about the headline tactics that a lot of media companies are using. Now, we are seeing mortgage rates go up. They are rising. And in some cases, in some markets, home sellers are lowering their asking prices. But it's the correlation that they put those two together that's not correct. No document created has ever found a strong correlation between rising interest rates and falling home prices. Historical data has showed us that over the past 40 years, home prices have risen no matter what interest rates are doing. This is because interest rates are cyclical. They go up, they go down, but surprisingly, home prices still continue to rise. I mean, just take a look at this chart here. There's a 0.1% correlation between interest rates and the changes in home prices. The last big one that I see all the time is that a wave of foreclosures are coming or a flood of foreclosures. This one, foreclosures are on the rise. Here's what that says about the housing market. Now, yes, I'm not going to deny that the amount of foreclosures did rise when the moratorium on foreclosures was lifted, right? Because there could be no foreclosures. There was very limited foreclosures. And now there can be foreclosures. So likely you are going to see a rise. That can be expected. But it is the changing of that headline to make people think that there's this flood coming. That's just not correct. The 2022 U.S. Home Equity and Underwater Report shows that 44.9% of mortgaged residential properties throughout the U.S. were considered equity rich in the first quarter, meaning that the combined estimated amount of loan balances secured by those properties was no more than 50% of their home's estimated market values. I'm going to tell you why that's important in a second. Record levels of home equity provide financial security for millions of families and minimize the chance of another housing market crash like the one we saw in 2008. This same report showed that just 3.2% of mortgaged homes, or 1 in 31, were considered seriously underwater as of the first quarter of this year. So only 3%. Rick Sharga, Executive VP for Market Intelligence, said that positive equity should give financially distressed homeowners better options than their counterparts had in the Great Recession, when 33% of all homeowners were underwater on their mortgages. Hopefully, these borrowers will be able to tap into their equity to refinance their debt or be able to leverage it to sell their property and get a fresh start. That's the main thing, guys. Anyone who has owned a home, even if they are behind on payments or they paid a considerable amount for their house, maybe a little bit more than they probably should have, they have continued to rise this insane growth in home prices while they are sitting on their house. Frankly, whether they are making their payments or not, their phantom home equity is building up. Their home is going up in value. So as we see more homeowners have positive home equity that are becoming equity rich, you are going to have more homeowners that if things go south, if they can no longer make their mortgage payment, if they start to become distressed, they have additional options. They can sell that house, likely have enough money to pay realtor fees, break even, and in turn save their credit rather than going through the foreclosure or short sale process, which will follow them and their credit for years to come. So there's not going to be this giant flood of foreclosures. The market is not coming crashing down. Spike in interest rates is not going to cause the prices to fall. There is some conflicting information that you may see out there. I wanted to go ahead and just debunk these ones in a quick video. If you have additional questions, let me know in the comments below, or you can always send me articles or videos on Instagram in my DMs. That's a great way to get a hold of me if you have a quick question. Of course, follow me over there for additional content. We are still buying houses, building houses, and flipping in this market. That's how much I don't believe that we are headed towards a crash. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I know I sure did. I'm Nicole Nark, Arkansas real estate broker, with videos to help you find your way home, and I will see you in the next one.